Alright, hello, I'm Jessica. I will be doing my video presentation on Judaism. Judaism is the historic religion of the Jewish people that dates back to as far as 2000 BC. So in this presentation, I have several different symbols and artifacts that strongly relate to the Judaism religion. The first one that I'll start with is the Star of David here. It has become known as the common symbol of Judaism. The Star of David is obviously a 6-point star. It often represents good fortune. The Star of David largely became associated with King David. During the 1600s, the Star of David started appearing on the outside of Jewish houses of worship as a way to identify the Jewish people. In more recent terms, the Star of David appears on the Nation of Israel's flag. The next topic that I chose to discuss is the menorah. The menorah is the oldest symbol of Judaism. It's a 7-branch candelabrum. Most of the times it's found in Jewish homes and Jewish temples. It's very prominent during the Jewish festival Hanukkah. During Hanukkah, they will use a 9-branched menorah to represent the 9 days of Hanukkah. The Hanukkah is also featured on the coat of arms. I also chose to speak about the Torah mainly because the Torah is such a large focal point for the Jewish religion. It is the main text of their religion, and it is where the Jews derive all their laws from. The Torah is simply the first 5 books of the Bible. So you have Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The Torah contains short stories and parables and commandments about life and death. The Jewish people consider the 10 Commandments the leading commandments of the Torah. So with that being said, I also chose the 10 Commandments to discuss because that kind of goes hand in hand. And like I said, the 10 Commandments is something that the Jews very, very heartedly follow. The 10 Commandments were given by God to the prophet Moses, who in return dispersed the 10 Commandments to all the Israelites. The 10 Commandments have commands such as thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. This is probably something that we as non-Jews do every single day. You know, something excites you and you just say, oh my God, look at how cute that is. That phrase, oh my God, is taking the Lord's name in vain. That would be considered breaking the commandment of God. Other commandments are thou shalt not lie, steal, murder, commit adultery. You should not covet the other's possessions. That simply put is jealousy. You should not be jealous of your neighbor's house because it's bigger than yours. You should simply be thankful that God gave you a house to live in anyways. The picture here is obviously not the actual 10 Commandments, but when God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, he inscribed them on tablets, which is really big stones that would look similar to this picture here. Whenever the Jews agreed to abide by God's commands, they entered into a covenant. This here is the Ark of the Covenant, which is a sacred box that holds the 10 Commandments. It holds Moses' staff, and it holds a pot of manna. The Ark of Covenant is considered the holiest object of ancient Israel. So now we can take a look at the Judaism view of life after death. This picture here that I chose symbolizes what Jews picture heaven to look like. They believe heaven will closely resemble the Garden of Eden. Jews also believe in a place called Sheol, which is the land of darkness. To me, it kind of resembles purgatory in the fact that it's neither heaven nor hell. Everyone after death is sent to Sheol while awaiting the final judgment. Something that I thought was pretty cool about the Jews' view on life after death is that they don't really focus on life after death because they believe you should not be persuaded by heaven and hell to follow God's commandments. That's something that should be done by the heart and by your own faith in believing in God. So that's why most Jews don't focus on it. Some Jews really don't even believe in life after death. There is a verse in the Bible that states, "From dust you were created, and to dust you will return," which is, I believe, a reason why the Jews don't believe in life after death. They choose not to focus on it. So we will also discuss the suffering of Jews. The picture that I found to represent or symbolize suffering is a badge. It's the Star of David, and in the middle it has Jude written in it. This badge was made to be worn by all Jews in Nazi Germany. As we all know, the Holocaust took place, and that was probably the most persecution that the Jewish people have suffered through. The Nazi Germany attempted to have a Jew-free world, and with that, they approximately murdered 6 million Jews. So, even though the Jews have suffered so much in their life since the beginning of their religion, they've always managed to keep their faith and keep their practices every single day. There's many practices that the Judaism religion has. I only chose a couple here. I chose kosher, circumcision, the bar and bat mitzvah festivals, and whenever the Jews worship. So the first one, kosher, is simply fitting or proper food. They have a very strict diet on what they can and cannot eat. An example of that is that Jews are not allowed to eat animals that walk on all 4 hoofs and have split hoofs, which is why I chose this picture here of this little piggy who is X'd out, because Jews are not allowed to eat pork because obviously they walk on all 4s and they have split hoofs. Another traditional practice of the Jewish people is circumcision. Whether you are a Reformed Jew or an Orthodox Jew, circumcision is universally recognized amongst all Jews. Circumcision is also seen as a sign of God's covenant with Abraham. Bar and bar mitzvahs are practiced when a Jewish child reaches a mature age, which is average like 13. This is probably an age when they know what is truly right from wrong, and when they can truly commit themselves to God and God's covenant. The picture here shows the 2 rabbis and the child reciting out of the Torah. Also, we're going to talk about when Jews worship. They choose to worship on Friday evenings and Saturday mornings in a synagogue or a temple. This is simply a way that they are following one of the 10 commandments, which is to keep the Sabbath day holy. And when we learned about Judaism, the Sabbath day was Friday evening until Saturday evening. So this goes hand in hand with them. They will worship in their temples or their synagogues. The picture I chose here is a synagogue with the Star of David in the middle of the building. I chose that picture simply because it corresponds with my first slide of my presentation about how Jews were made to put the Star of David on the outside of their places of worship. So that concludes my presentation. I hope that you have a better understanding of some artifacts and some symbols of the Jewish religion.